Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Stories That Inspire Us. Today, obviously, I have an amazing guest, but I just want to introduce myself real quickly. Janice Malillo, the host of Stories, inspired, of course, by my son, Ryan Scott. Today is Tuesday, August 30th, and I will just, before we get started with my introduction of my amazing guest, she is what I call a repeat offender, but I just want to say that's a term of endearment. She was previously on the Stories That Inspire Us podcast. Actually, I think it was about 3 weeks ago, and we reconnected, and I just knew I had an instant connection with this amazing young woman who only inspires me each and every day. So without further ado, welcome back, Jessica. I'm so excited to have you.
I'm so excited to be a repeated offender. I don't think many of us get to say that. So I'm excited to have that in my vocabulary.
And I just, speaking of words, we always learn different words each day. I know for me, because I'm kind of a geek as far as that goes, but you have, oh my God, you just really touched my heart and soul. You have a business anniversary coming up. Oh my gosh. Can you tell us what that's all about?
Yes, for sure. So I just celebrated 2 years of my business on this past Friday, August 25th. And so every year, I know it's only 2 years, but every year what I've decided I wanted to do was celebrate by donating to a fundraiser. And the fundraiser that I chose to donate to last year and continue wanting to donate this year is suicide prevention awareness.
Suicide prevention awareness.
Yes.
And I know, how do I say this? I know that everyone probably, in all likelihood, unfortunately, knows someone through either a friendship or a family member whose family member, or however it works, has committed suicide. And we've, as a nation, wherever we are in the world, have gone through so much these last 2 months, and we've heard so much about that lately. We've heard that word suicide, and honestly, when I think of that word, it makes me very sad, and I feel almost a little anxious. But your mission, your celebration of your business anniversary really is dedicated to such an amazing institution to bring awareness, because we've all been affected by it, and I know that you've been affected by it. Can you tell us why you specifically chose suicide awareness or suicide prevention?
Yeah, I mean, either one works. It's fine. So I chose this one. So for a lot of reasons. So one, my business as a stress management coach and a self-love coach, that was my mission to, as a prevention educator, to create awareness around stress. But stress is one of the leading causes to dying by suicide. And so I really wanted that reason to be it. Another main reason, even why I even started my business, was because we've all had that low where you're literally on the bathroom floor. You're literally just feeling the floor just because it's cold, because you're going, I have no feelings left. I don't even know what to think, to feel. I just know this is all I got. I feel cold. I needed to feel something. And I know we've all experienced that. And whether it went more down south or you found some support and help, we've all been there and needed some kind of help. And I just want that to be spoken up more, because those low moments are so common and they're so needed to be talked about. It, like you mentioned, this pandemic, a lot of mental health has been talked about. In my mind, it's still just a hashtag. And I want it to be more talked about, in the sense of, when you have that low moment, what do you do? Who do you call? And so that's a lot about what this fundraiser does, is they educate, the families, they educate, medical field. They do a lot of different things with that. And so it's just really true to my heart on that. So many of us can relate, whether I know somebody that died by suicide, or attempted to die by suicide, right? So I just think a lot of us can have that similar feeling of just feeling so low.
Yes, and of course, that low at those times obviously lead us in a very dark place. And sometimes when we're in that dark place, it's like we're in that, that black hole, so to speak. And, how do we climb out of that? But this is really what you're doing again, is the awareness part of it, which I think is so vitally important to so many different peoples. I mean, suicide does not discriminate. And when I say that, it just, it breaks my heart. Like, I just want to reach out there. And obviously, I'm not a mental health provider, nor can I give advice. This is about an awareness topic to something that we're hearing just way too much of. And that's what I think is scary. But in light of this situation, and I always believe that there's light, that we can have that honest one-on-one talk, or with a group of people, however it may be, maybe someone who's listening through the Wisdom Audio app, if they can hear the passion of why we're doing this specific podcast, that maybe they know somebody who knows somebody, that's what it is all about for us. And I just think that the more we share, the more we talk about it, it doesn't have to seem so scary, in the sense that, we shouldn't bring up the subject. We should bring up the subject.
Yeah, and you kind of put something there too. Like I said, I did this last year as well and created a fundraiser, but and I'm from Philadelphia, so there's a Philadelphia walk for it as well, to bring awareness and raise money and things like that. And so I have a good group of solid friends, and they're like, oh, sure, we'll come, whatever you need us to do, one of those. And their parents end up coming as well. And the mom messaged me a few days after the walk, and she had said, I just learned that I actually know people that died by suicide. And I learned that their husband or their ex, their this, whatever, passed down the lane. She goes, I'm seeing this now more, and within just a few days. So I think, again, with that awareness, it's more of going, this is a real thing. We all know somebody that knows somebody. It's kind of like a cancer. We all know somebody that has had cancer, has gone through cancer treatment, right? And so this suicide and mental health, I feel, is the exact same way. But in the sense of the next step too is, one, talking about it, but also, what do we do, right? And how do we talk about, like you said, you're not a mental health provider of any sort, which is fine. So when someone reaches out to you, then what? So if we're not talking about it, that scary feeling, that overwhelming feeling is going to be there, and they're going to feel that, it's just kind of that back and forth tension. And so when we talk about it a little bit more, we can kind of release that a little bit.
And this is probably a good segue. About a month ago, I was on a Zoom conference call in a group setting. And of course, I'm not going to name names. This is not what this is about. But being on the receiving end of, we introduce ourselves. Hey, what's going on? Blah, blah, blah. How are you feeling today? Well, this person said, I don't really feel very well, and I feel like taking my own life. I happened to be looking down at the moment, and and obviously our listeners through the Wisdom Audio app cannot see me, but I'm looking at you, Jessica, directly. And I just dropped my head, and I'm like, oh my God, did I just hear that right?
Right.
I know I was listening, but did I really hear what was going on?
Right.
And I'm not going to lie, it kind of freaked me out. But I have to say, the person who was in charge of the meeting handled it very, very well. Now, this person is a trained in psychology and all that kind of stuff. I'm not sure what the person's certification is, but she, number one, was very calm, which certainly made all of us calm, because now we're receiving messages back and forth, through text and this and that. And I said, okay, everyone, let's take a deep breath. But she handled it perfectly. She said, I just want to ask you a few questions. Do you have anything near you that would harm yourself? Do you have anything near you?
Yeah.
Person said no. Okay. Do you think you need to call someone? Well, that's probably a good idea. So there were very comforting questions, or very one-on-one questions for that person. But I got to tell you, that was so frightening to witness and be a part of that.
Yeah. And the thing is, like you said, if we didn't talk about this awareness, the thought of that conversation would have not been here, right? So one, and two, I think you kind of mentioned something what the facilitator did. She responded calmly, which is so much easier said than done, right? Especially when you have that initial, like you said, you originally were looking down, probably taking notes, maybe getting ready for the meeting, whatever the case may be. And you hear this comment that you weren't ready for. You're rather used to going, oh, the kids this, the weather this, work this, right? So for you to hear something that's completely out of normal, you're going, oh man, well, how do I respond? I've never dealt with this before, right? And so again, way easier said than done. This isn't, well, just handle it calmly, guys. What's going on? It's not like that. But I think there's two things that you mentioned there. One was trying to be calm. I would say trying to be calm. And what does that look like, right? I mean, I think the other thing she did was ask questions that are not judgmental. Because I think what we tend to do, not on purpose, anything like that, but when someone comes to us upset, we tend to think that they might be being, and I'm air quoting over here, dramatic, right? And so we tend to respond that way. So asking questions non-judgmentally, and also just trying to stay in that calm mode.
Right. And I think there was about, I want to say 7 or 8 of us on, and there were 3 or 4 people that did not have that had their cameras off. I had mine on, and I was thinking to myself, okay, I've never been through this before. There's no rule book, there's no protocol. And I wanted to turn my camera off, but I didn't want to. That would have been, I thought, I paused for a moment. Okay, I need to remain calm. And I am not going to take myself off the camera, because I didn't want that person to feel like, oh my God, now I'm, creating, like, add more stress to them, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Which again is so much easier than said than done, because it's such an instant, just be like, let me just turn the screen off. Okay. They can't look at me. I can process my own feelings. There's so much for that. And I think so many people can relate to that, because that's probably a very common thing for people. Like, well, I would just shut the Zoom off. I don't even want to be part of it. And there's nothing against those people. Obviously, it's not that they're not a bad person in any kind of way. But like you said, you're going, okay, I took my breath. Okay, what is maybe the respectful response for myself and for that person, right? So I think there was 2 things that had to happen there. But again, we're talking this within minutes. This is actually seconds of going through this, right? So that whole calmness and that whole awareness, which is what a lot of I preach on like for daily basis practices. I'm not in the sense of meditation and things like that. I do love meditation, yoga, but just in the sense of that self-check-in. That's why those moments are so important, about why I love what I teach, because that is a real life moment what you just brought up. There was no planning. There wasn't a training. There was just a quote unquote normal Zoom call that you're going, hi, I'm just going to talk about X, Y, and Z. And it wasn't that way, right? So if you didn't have some of the tools that you had in your toolbox, that could have gone differently. And there's people on that call that could have gone differently for.
Sure. And I was actually up after that person, and as I'm processing everything, And he said, the person said, I promise you, I'm not going to do anything. I'm obviously on camera, but this is the way I feel, but I'm just going to mute myself. So that person muted themselves, and then it was my turn to speak. And I just spoke the way I normally would speak and just made a generalized type of comment that, we're all here to support you, that type of thing. And it, just a few words. And, he nodded like, thank you. The person nodded, thank you. And still, when I think about it, and when we had this conversation last week, it brought me back to that meeting.
Wow.
And yeah, it's not planned for. There's no protocol. Okay, what do you do? Which way do you go? And if you have to pause, I shouldn't say if you have to pause, you should pause for reflection, because pausing, you are protecting your own energy as well as the person's energy. And I think that's so important.
I totally agree. It's not selfish to want to protect that energy. Like you said, it's a reflection. So if you didn't take that moment to pause, again, we are breaking this down by millisecond, but that's why you take care of yourself the way you do. So you have these options. But if you didn't take that moment to pause, you could have thought about, somebody that you love hurting themselves. You could have thought about maybe a time that someone else talked about this, and you were going to respond and react that way, and so, and again, we all have our past experiences. So everything we go through, we are reacting based on that, and so you're absolutely right. You got to protect that energy of yourself. So, because it's going to protect both of you.
And I want to say welcome to our many listeners on the Wisdom Audio app. I thank you so much for being here. And I see a lot of familiar names, so thank you so much. I did see somebody come up on the stage. We may take questions at some point. And if someone would like to come up and, ask us a question or have a conversation about maybe something that you experienced, we would invite you to come up. We have time for one guest on Wisdom to come up, so please feel free to do so. I saw somebody come up and then I saw the guest thing disappear, so I want to acknowledge that person who came up, and thank you so much for doing that. I was just so in the conversation, I kind of saw it out of the corner of my eye, so I want to thank that person for coming up. I'm not sure who it was. So back to the topic of discussion. So you're doing this walk, but I understand that you're also is it a separate fundraiser as well?
So technically it's all one fundraiser. So technically it's just different ways to donate. So I have one fundraiser, but you can either just donate for, just by the link, or I'm also having an in-person event. So I'm having raffles from local businesses. I'm speaking. Another friend of mine, she speaks highly on mental health. She'll speak as well. There'll be food, drinks. That's going to be on September 22nd. It's a Thursday night from 6 to 8 p.m. It's local. Again, I'm from Philadelphia, so it's in the King of Prussia area. And Janice, I'll give you the links so you can, copy that if that's easy for you as well.
Sure.
If you're on Wisdom, I don't know if that works that way. So if you go to journeytoyourself.net, all of the information from the in-person fundraiser to the link to just being able to donate in general, or the walk information. Or another thing is that just having this information shared is really important. Again, I'm not as a suicidal mental health expert. I just think it's a really important fundraiser because it goes really well with what my mission is. And it's just a really, really good fundraiser. And in general, it's a really good nonprofit for sure. So donate, in-person event, or the walk.
Okay, those are great avenues for, and obviously you're going to send me that information.
Okay.
I'm sure that gets in the show notes, and obviously people can check out your website. When doing this and helping others, and I know that you and I are very similar in that regard, and my hope my big goal at some point is to start my own 501c3 to raise awareness for traumatic brain injury patients and their families who were thrust into what my son experienced. Have you been able to meet families and friends that come to support the cause as well?
Oh yeah. So the Suicide Prevention Awareness Fundraiser Foundation, sorry, they provide a lot of educational workshops. So I definitely go to them, especially if I want to speak on the mission. I want to try to speak correctly on things, just get statistical stats. But there's always family members there, and I just get to meet them and hear their stories and just hear their bonds and things like that. And that's always really beautiful. And even just the facilitators of the workshops, there's so many people that are just volunteering their time to do these presentations to support, these families. And so it's just really beautiful. But in the sense of my own family, it's been so cool. Just having people go, how can I help? That's always the cool part. Like you said, you want to start your own foundation one day. I'm going to be here rooting for you. And, but just in general, I think when it comes to asking for help, asking people what they can do, right? So in the sense of my business and my fundraiser, not everybody can come to every event. That's not realistic, right? So for you, we're new friends and now we're gonna be friends for life, but it's not realistic for you to come to every in-person event, but it's realistic for you to have me on your podcast. It's realistic for my friend to share my post. It's realistic for my friend to, so what's realistic for them that the way they can still help. But I think sometimes even when we're asking for help, we ask people for a certain favor and they're not able to provide it. And we might be taking that to heart, right? So meeting that person where they're at, again, we are all having our own inner critics, no matter what face we're putting on the outside.
Right. So it can be something as simple as in hand or in kind. Realistically, like you said, even though I am in the Philly area often, it wouldn't be, travel wise, it would be a difficult thing, but I can help in other ways. And how amazing is that? So, as you said, I like to think of what I can do, not what I can't do, because there is always something that we can do.
Always. And we forget how much those little things do actually matter in the broad scheme of things, right? So again, for business owners, that one like is just another like. So to you, you're like, oh, I'll scroll past it. But for business owners, that one like is important. Or that one like, oh, hey, my friend's doing this event is really important. And I bring that up because in a real life, I should say real life, in life situations such as, okay, I'll say I'm a mom, right? There's always something you need. Maybe it's a babysitter, maybe it's money, maybe it's just time by yourself. Well, I might not have money, so I can't provide it for you, but I can surely come over and babysit so you can take a shower, so there's always, or I can grab milk for you because I can afford milk. So I can grab that on my way home and pass that to you. So there's always something that we can do for others. It's those little ones we kind of go, oh, well, it's just milk. Well, that could have been cereal dinner for them that night, and so we don't think it outside the box a little bit, but also realizing that every little thing does matter on both ends.
It really does. And it's also being present in the matter because, even that situation that I described about a month ago, I was present, but I had to take a step back, even though I was present. And I know that I'm doing a word salad kind of thing. And I guess
I love that saying, by the way. Can we just pin that real quick? Word salad.
I'm famous for word salads. I can't help
I'm
it.
using that.
Whatever it is, it is. But the word salad aspect of it is we can help in so many different ways. It doesn't have to be like $5,000. It doesn't have to be something so big that it stresses us.
Yes.
I'm not stressing about it. And obviously through the Stories That Inspire Us pod page, my website, and the Truly Your VA podcast website, I am able to donate the space to help promote this as well. And I am excited about that because, think of I always think of the far reach, like who is this going to reach? And a little sidebar story, it occurred to me that if we think we don't reach someone, we actually are, because a story that I shared, somebody from Australia contacted me.
Wow.
That says something right there. And I will always remember that in such a way. So my point being, or the point I'm trying to get across is, with our viewers and our listeners currently on the Wisdom Audio app. And again, thank you so much. If you have a story out there, if you have something to share, if you think it does not matter, it does. It matters so much.
And I think, like you said, for so many reasons, I think, again, we keep thinking of that word dramatic. And, I think when we're talking about your story, it matters because one, it's your story. That should just be one period. And then the second piece is you don't know who's listening, in the sense of how they can support you, or they're going, oh, shoot, me too. You've been on the bathroom floor before. It looks like you have your whole life together, but you've been that low. Right. And so you don't know who you're supporting when you start to tell your story, obviously, which is one of the reasons why I love your podcast so much, because we all have that story. We have all come from something. No one had this perfect life. No one didn't have pain. We've all felt pain. And I think a lot of the times we compare the deepness of pain, but I hate to tell you, a paper cut's a paper cut. It hurts no matter what. And I don't understand. I'll use the word dramatic here for a second. I shot you in the leg and I got shot in the stomach. Okay, yeah, mine's technically worse because it's in the stomach, but you still got shot. You still have a pain. You still got wounded. You still went through a crisis, right? So we tend to compare stories because we're like, well, mine's not that bad. I'll hold mine. No, yours still caused you pain. Yours still made you feel sad. You are allowed to feel that. You're allowed to feel that pain. You're allowed to have that. Just because I, quote unquote, had it worse does not make your feeling not valid.
Oh my gosh, you hit the nail on the head. Or I don't know if I said that correctly. There's another word out. But the point being that, we don't know what somebody is going through. And we do compare our quote unquote hurts and how we feel. Well, this person, and let me backtrack just a second. Like some people may look at me, for instance, the host of 3 podcasts, and go, all right, that's crazy. Why is this person doing this? But there's back stories to all of that. And I'm able to provide a platform where I can connect, inspire, and collaborate with people. To me, that's worth so much more than money or this or that. But the other thing being too, when we compare ourselves with others, we're actually, I think, putting filters on. Like, there's a lot of influencers on social media, and we have a guest coming up, and I'm just going to finish this thought. And don't put any filters on, because we're beautiful already. So here comes our guest. And I hope I'm doing this correctly because I'm getting a big glare. Okay, they're coming on. We'll welcome them. Hello, Keith. Welcome to Stories.
I'm actually Phantom Electric Ghost. I had to create a new profile, and that's actually my real name, Keith.
Oh,
okay. But I'm Phantom, so I think you've talked to me before.
Oh, okay. Well, welcome. What has your experience been, and how would you like to contribute to the conversation today?
Well, I am 54 years old, and I'm a cancer survivor. When I was 27, I had a level 3 sarcoma, and I survived it. And it was a life-changing event. didn't have cancer in my family history. And I had this level 3, which is like, level 4 is like the worst. Level 3 is pretty bad. And I think it's like it changed my whole world point of view. And I started to get this more expansive point of view that I got from that period. I started to like realize that I shouldn't put boundaries on myself. I shouldn't put like artificial ceilings. Me, after that happened, I was able to get a job in Tokyo because I said, well, I don't have to just work in the US. I got married and I had my daughter, and we lived in Tokyo for like 2 years. And so it really was because I got rid of some of the fear of doing things because I went through something so big and I survived it, that it gave me some different coping strategies.
Wow.
Wow.
Wow. Jessica, I see you wanting to say something.
Yeah, I just wanted to chime in. There's so much strength in that story. And so I first of all want to just kind of send that message first, that there's so much strength in that story, because we do let a lot of our stories define us and maybe even defeat us. And you said, you know what? No, I'm not. And you even made so many strides, not even healing yourself, but making big moves that to change that stress. Then you got married, you got to fall in love. Like, that is such a passion for so many people that you got to do that. And then I honestly heard your face light up. I don't know if you heard this too. When he said my daughter, he had his daughter. Did you hear his face light up? So it's so cool to hear where that journey has taken you and literally hear the strength of it, because those are just like snippets of what you went through, when we know there was so many ups and downs to get you to where you are now.
I mean, just the struggle was in, working with the medical community. My first oncologist wanted to put me in a study where there was a 50% chance that the medical solution was going to be a placebo. And I'm like, well, that means like there's a 50-50 shot you're not actually doing anything to get rid of the sarcoma.
Wow.
So I had to actually study about what it was and realize that I needed a second opinion. And I think that is a kind of lesson learned. Is like, you can't just let the doctors kind of put you into an experimental program because they're doing a research study. You got to decide, well, what do I need for me? And if you didn't have like the presence of mind to go, look up what that means, that, some people always, I'm just going to go what the doctor says. And then, there was a 50% chance I didn't take out an aggressive cancer. And because I actually took some ownership of my situation and researched what he was talking about, and I said, well, no, I went with a different solution, with a radiologist and 2 surgeries, and did radiation therapy, like max radiation dose, and that solved it. I'm still here, but I think if I had gone with the other solution, there's a 50-50 shot I wouldn't be here.
And what's really sticks out to me, what you said was you took ownership. That within itself right there is a huge story. And by the way, as a sidebar and another word salad, I would love to have you as a guest on the Stories That Inspire Us podcast.
Oh, cool.
So send me some kind of message. You can send me a Facebook message or the back channel. I'm not too savvy with the back channel here on Wisdom, but you can also go on my profile, and it is the Truly Your VA podcast. But what you can do is just send me a contact form and let me know that you spoke with me today on the Stories podcast. Thank you so much to that gentleman who just came up like that. Wow. Wow.
How awesome was that?
Yeah.
I can see us smiling right now.
Oh my God. You're not going to believe this. I'm getting, I just got a news alert. And it was about a suicide. I hate getting those alerts. I didn't see the whole alert, and I'm not going to go there right now because we have more to chat about. Jessica, what would you think, you know, as we were talking about filters, and as the gentleman said, and I couldn't see his name because of the glare I'm getting right at the moment. Like what he said about taking ownership.
So a couple of things here, right? So obviously I'm not a doctor, so I will never speak on
Right.
any of that. I have my master's in public health, and that's the far extent of my education. In the sense of ownership, I feel like what he was saying too is he was going what his gut feeling, and his gut feeling was maybe saying, this is not my only solution. I'm going to go see if there's other solutions. So I think for me, the first thing as like my profession, I want to say, like, I don't think he was nixing the fact that he was a doctor and, the doctors are wrong. I think he was just saying, I knew in my gut there was something more I could do, and I wanted to see if there was. I feel like if he went to that second doctor and they told him that was the only option, then a different story. But he was like, hey, this option just sounds great, and it's going to validate what I'm seeing, my research. He even said he did a lot of research. So I think professionally wise, I want to kind of put that there. Back to the ownership. I saw this one quote. I'm going to butcher it, so I'm not going to say it all the way. But basically, we are our problem. We are also our solution, was basically the gist of it. So he took ownership of that. Again, it's one of the things I super preach on, is that accountability. If you want something to change, it starts with you. And he didn't like that answer. So he's like, I'm going to go research, and I'm going to go talk to somebody, another professional, and see what they said based on my research and based on my experience. Are these these are my options. Do you agree? Right. And so I think that was super strong with him, because a lot of times, again, going back to that defeat, we kind of goes, okay, well, that's it. Right. And so he said, I'm going to go see what else is out there.
And I think that is amazing, like taking ownership. That just really sticks with me. Wow. So you have an amazing, your September is going to be a September to remember.
I like that one. I'm writing that down. I'm going to write so many quotes after talking to you.
You're just going to have to listen to the podcast again to get all my word salads.
I love it.
But on that note, Jessica, I want to thank you so much for your heart, your passion, your soul, and bringing awareness to suicide prevention and what you are doing in honor of your entrepreneurship. Us being here today, these are the stories that inspire us. And I want to thank you, because I think you are just a gem. I think you're flipping amazing, and more word salads to come for sure.
I love it. Well, again, I want to thank you, and, kind of piggyback on what we talked about earlier, just having you to talk to in general, let alone on your podcast. I think that just shows support right there. So I just want to thank you.
You are so welcome. Now, folks, I want to thank all of my listeners on the Wisdom Audio app. So appreciate your being here today. It's going to be, I know it's going to be a September to remember for all of us. And remember, if you have a story to share, it is that important. Let's take ownership as we go forward in the day. I'm going to say goodbye right now to all my listeners on the Wisdom Audio app, and we will see you real soon. Now, go to my profile on Wisdom here, click on the Truly Your VA, and you can always send me a contact message through there, and I can send you more information on how we get you on the Stories That Inspire Us podcast. Thank you so much, Wisdom. Have a great day, and we'll see you real soon. Hey, Facebook, Stories That Inspire Us. My gosh, we're now, of course, on iHeartRadio and Amazon Music. Pretty awesome. You can go to the website and, look us up, and we would love to have you on a guest. It's so important that if you have a story to share, your voice needs to be heard. That means someone else needs to hear it. That means you're part of the ripple effect. My name is Janice Malil, the host of Stories That Inspire Us. Again, I was inspired by the amazing Jessica Harrington. Thank you so much, Jessica, and we'll see you again real soon. Bye, everyone.